Hi everyone, it's Dina at the partnership. Thanks for joining us. We'll get started in about 5 minutes. Just so you know, everybody is on mute and listen only mode. So if you have any questions, please type them in the question box. And I guess if for those of you who are on already, if you can just help us with a sound check. Can you hear me okay? Is the line clear? You know, we've had some issues before, so if you can hear me, let us know. Uh-oh. Nobody's letting me know. Could somebody go, Joe is on. Could somebody go ask him if he can hear? Oh, okay. Oh, there he is. Oh, Joe just heard me. Joe. All right. Well, now that I know everybody can hear, I'm going to go ahead and put us on mute, just so you don't hear our background noise. And again, we'll get started in a few minutes. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, this is Dina Al-Khatib at the partnership, and I'm here with Christy, Dora, Ann, and Gabby. And I want to thank everybody for joining us on this happy Valentine's Day with our penguin, because we also have a lot of snow out there. And hopefully I won't keep you too long today in case you have a hot date. And if you don't have a hot date, that's okay too, because it's really just a Hallmark holiday. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Hopefully. Yeah, there we go. All right, so just some webinar logistics. If you've been on one of these webinars before, you've heard this spiel before, but everyone is in listen only mode just to reduce background noise. So please, if you have any questions, type your questions in the questions box, and we'll answer as many during the call as we can. Christy is keeping an eye on the questions, and she'll interrupt me or poke me as questions come up, and we'll just answer questions as they come up. We are also recording the webinar today, and we will get that link to the recording up on the help desk. Also, all the materials are already posted on the help desk site, and you can actually download them if you open your little tool. I don't think you guys can see my tool, but you have a little tool with the webinar that's like might have a little orange arrow that you can click on, and there should be a thing that says handouts, and there's 4 handouts on there, so you can download them right from here, or they're always available on the help desk site. And in fact, I will just show you really quickly. So I have the help desk site up here. Whoops, it's the wrong site. So we actually have everything. So we have the PowerPoint that I'm going to go through today, Career Connect tips and tricks up. And then we're going to talk about the services. We've updated the list of services, definitions, and roles and reorganized it a little bit. So we've got adult dislocated, youth, and WeOA follow-up services. So all those are new, and they're all promoted right on the front page today, since we're doing this. So, and again, the Help Desk website's your best friend for Career Connect resources. So let me go back. And I am mostly going to be working in the presentation today versus going back and forth to the actually Career Connect, because I have a lot of screenshots in here. But if there is something you want me to show in the site, I do have it up. So just put that in a question, and I'm happy to do that. But I think the screenshots that are in here are pretty useful. So we're going to go over today just a number of things that we've either seen people make mistakes on, or that we want to be sure that you know, and then hoping that towards the end of this we'll be able to get to some of the staff alerts. I know that's something that people have been really interested in, and at some point we'll probably do more in depth around alerts, but at least we've tried to give you enough to get started if you are interested in playing with those. So our first agenda item is about PII, personally identifiable information. You may have heard about this with all the concerns about identity theft. Basically, PII is sensitive data that can be used for identity theft. So it's when you have a combination of a name, a date of birth, social security number, address, those types of things. The great thing about Career Connect is that it assigns a unique user ID number for every customer that we can use to look up a customer in Career Connect, or you can use to look up a customer in Career Connect instead of the social security number. And so we're asking you, we're trying to get people out of the habit of sending the last 4, and some people even send me the last 4 of the date of birth, whole lots of way more information than we need, to the help desk. And what we really request is, if you're sending a request to the help desk, to provide the customer first and last name, the user ID number, and any other relevant information. Do not send the last 4 or the date of birth or any other personal information, unless, of course, it's actually relevant to the issue to be resolved. I know everybody thinks email is secure. You know, the help desk website, the tickets come in via email. Email is not always 100% secure. So the less we can be emailing that kind of information, the better. So how do you find the user ID? It's in the system in a number of places, but I found the easiest place to find it, and probably the area of the system you're working in the most, is if you're in the staff profile, case management profile, programs tab. You may have noticed this show summary tabs with a little plus sign next to it. What you want to do is you want to click on that plus sign, and you'll see then it'll change to hide summary tabs, and it'll have a little minus sign, and you get a whole bunch of individual details, but one of those is the user ID. And it's generally I believe some of them may be a little longer. I think it's generally a 6-digit ID. And then we can look it up with that ID. So not the login name, because the login name usually includes the last 4 of the social. So just this user ID number. If you give us the first and last name and that number, we can look them up in the system. If we need the social for some reason, then we will, you know, we can look it up using that number. So any questions on PII before I move on to our next topic? This user ID also often shows up in reports too, so that's helpful. Any? Nope. Okay, we don't have any questions on that yet. If you do, please feel free to submit them. And the next thing I'm going to talk about, there was a lot of questions about services that have come up. And a lot, still getting a fair number of mistakes as people enter services. So we wanted to go over some of these items again. The first thing that we've done is we've actually, we've had this on the help desk, so I'm not sure if people always knew it was there or how well it was covered in training, but we have updated and slightly reorganized the list of services. So we have one for adult, actually the universal services is not posted yet. We're actually going to clean up that list because there's a lot of stuff in there that nobody uses, and I think we're going to inactivate it, and then we'll make sure we have definitions for everything that we have that's up there. So that one is not posted yet, but we will post it. But the more critical ones, the adult and dislocated worker services, youth services, and follow-up services. So those lists are there. Every service except for one, because we're waiting for Commerce to give us a definition, has a definition. And then it also has a list of business rules. So like, what service activity level is it? If it's an adult dislocated, is it a career service or training service, or could it be both, like support services? Youth, it's what is it, academic learning, case management, or what's the other one?
Work-related.
Work-related. Thank you, Christy. Also, if all of the same-day services, even in the system, they say same-day service, but we have like the same-day service on the rules, open and close same day. And then also if another service must be opened first. So if you're having trouble, like, why isn't the service showing up? I'm not seeing, I know a big one was, we're not seeing OJTs, private sector OJTs. So people are putting in private sector training, and then we've had to reverse some of those. So if you're not seeing the service that you think you should be seeing, check your list of the service definitions and roles. Or if you're not sure what service you should be using, look at the definition. And this is what the lists look like. So for example, you have the service code, that's the code in Career Connect, the service activity title, you have whether it's work-related, your service activity level. I happen to pick some youth ones here, your definition, and then you have your activity rules. So for example, holding cannot be the first service, because you can't put somebody on hold if they haven't even had a service yet. They're not enrolled. Or for academic, advanced academic prerequisite training, you have to have the ISS activity code 412 before you can open the service, and it won't even show up for you to pick it unless you put the ISS service in. And then the other example here is it's a dropout recovery, which again, same day service, right? You see that there. So you have to have the ISS, and then the service must be opened and closed on the same day, and you have to add a case note. And I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. So this list again has been updated and put on the help desk site. So please take a look at that. And you know how to find us if you have any questions about anything, if a definition doesn't make sense. If a definition doesn't make sense, mostly we're going to blame Commerce because it's mostly their definition. But, I did want to mention, and we tried to note this on the form, that there are a number of, and I put in quotes, new services. There are a couple of services that we created in Career Connect that don't exist in IWIDS. So one, and we did a whole training on this, and there's a whole procedure on this on the help desk, and a recorded webinar, but it's code 221 for adult dislocated, code 428 for youth. Individualized services and training plan, or the ISTEP for OJT. So you have to have the IEP or ISS before you add this service, and you have to have this service in before you can open an OJT service. We also have a co-enrolled in IWIDS. Check IWIDS before closing and exiting. Again, we have a relatively new procedure on this. Specifically, this is if somebody's co-enrolled in OE and 90 in Career Connect or in IWIDS. So that's the only time you would use this. Education offered concurrently with workforce programs, which is the same-day service. This is not a service in IWIDS. It's a separate field that they added to IWIDS maybe a year or so ago, and there was no good place in Career Connect. It didn't have the equivalent field, so we just added it as a service, and it's defined in our definitions. So if you have somebody that meets that education offered concurrently with workforce programs, you can enter it as a service, but it won't show up as IWIDS as a service, and it shows up on a different screen in IWIDS. And then two services that we added that are really specific. So hopefully we've got some of you who work in this, but if you're doing career pathway training, 9 ITAs, if you have one of our career pathway contracts, we actually have a specific service for that, and that goes to IWIDS as occupational classroom training, but ITA is no. And then for Bridge, we have a Bridge training, we have a funded 9 ITA service. So if you're working on those two programs under our contract, you should be using these services. And the Bridge training goes to IWIDS as remedial training, because that meets the best definition. So those are some that are a little different than what you had in IWIDS. Otherwise, really, all the services are pretty much the same as what were in IWIDS. We just have some hard business rules about the order that you have to open them in. Any questions about service definitions or rules? All right. Same-day services. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but we're still having this problem. So the actual start date has to equal the actual end date. Now, the system won't let you have a difference between the start date and the end date. However, the system will not make you close it on the day it's entered, but you should be closing it on the same day it's entered. We should not have any open same-day services in the system. You also have to remember to add a case note. The system will not force you to add a case note, but there's a handy-dandy little link to add a case note right on the page. So please make sure you're adding the case note. And then there is an open same-day service report, and we are asking you all to run this at least monthly. And this has got any site directors on the phone, please try to run this monthly, and there's a link right here to where you can find the instructions, because that report will tell you how many open same-day services, and hopefully everybody saw the email that was sent out maybe shortly after the first of the year. But we have given site directors at each site, site director, program manager, have access to backdate services more than 90 days. So if you find open same-day services that need to be closed, your site directors can close them for you. And if you're not sure who at your organization has the site director privileges, put a ticket into the help desk and we can look that up for you. All right. And this is just an example of a service, a same-day service that's correct. So I can see my start date was 8/1/2017. My end date's 8/1/2017. I have a completion code, and I have a case note. So that is correct. This is incorrect. It's open, this is non-selected, no case note, any of those things. And on your list of your summary of services, if you see closed there, and I'm going to go back a slide, versus seeing your end date and your completion code, then that means that same-day service is open. So career coaches, if you're going in to add a new service, you may just want to check, do I have any same-day services that are open? And once again, and it might be hard to see on the screen here, but all the same-day services, like this one says, case management, same-day service. So it's right there if it's a same-day service or not. It's right in the activity description for you. So you don't have to remember which ones are same-day and which are not. It's just the label tells you. Is everybody sick of me talking about same-day services? All right. The other thing that's important, and I think we've talked about this before, but is that if services are missing the actual start date, they will not go to IWIS. So we've got an example here. There's a projected begin date, but there's no actual begin date. So that means this service did not transmit to IWIS. And we actually recommend that you do something kind of like the bottom example here, where you just skip the projected and just add the actual, because the projected really doesn't mean anything for us. I mean, the only reason you would use this is if you were planning to start this down the road and you want to put the service in beforehand. We don't really do that in our system. So we just recommend doing something like this, skipping projected and just add actual. So you have to have one or the other. This is fine too. You can have both, but the most important one is the actual. All right. Okay, this is probably a new one. I know a couple of you, because we've had some mistakes and we've showed you how to do this, but especially for those of you who do both adult and dislocated worker, but really anybody that works across titles, maybe you want to put the customer in and you want to see which category they're going to get certified for. So you're going to, at that start page, you're going to pick adult and dislocated or adult and youth if you have both and you're not sure where they're going to qualify. So you want to make them eligible in more than one customer group to see what their eligibility is at the end. But once you get that eligibility, maybe you have more dislocated worker money than you have adults. So you're going to enroll them as dislocated and not adults. The problem is when you're putting in your service and you pick adult, the only way to fix that is for us to void the service and have you re-enter it. But there's a handy trick that you can use and you can train your staff to use, and that's inactivating on the application the customer group that you're not going to end up putting services in for. And you may have seen this, actually, some of you, was that train the trainer or was that training? I know we had a bug with this when we were training at some point, fixed now. But so here's the situation where I've got somebody who, in this case, I certified them for all three. And maybe for some reason I'm going to do something under dislocated worker and I'm going to do some services under youth, but I know I'm not going to put any adult services for them. So I can just click this and activate. And the nice part about that is then any case manager that goes to the services screen to enter a service for this customer, they can't pick adults. Now, let's say something happens and, oh, I need to add an adult service later. You guys can come back and unclick this and activate box and then add services. So it doesn't lock you down, but it is a way to prevent making some mistakes. So are there any questions about that? Because it's new. I went over it a little fast. No? Is anybody out there? All right. Okay, we'll try this. Again, it's a great tool if you register folks across multiple titles. All right, another big one, and this one is a little complicated and confusing, so I don't blame people for making mistakes here, but services that are missing the provider data in the service provider tab also will not transmit to IWIS. So you have to have the provider the service, course, or contract, the location, and a relationship number. And I know especially we've had some trouble with relationship numbers, so I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But what are some tips and tricks if you can't get the provider or the relationship number before you contact the help desk? So again, even if these are don't have an asterisk next to them, the provider location and the relationship number are required, and it won't let you save the screen without it. Unfortunately, it will let you save the service. So if the provider or service course or contract information doesn't display, then go ahead and just send a ticket to the help desk. And what we need, customer first and last name, and not the last four, but the user ID number. We need the service code and the description. So develop IEP 412, I think that one's the code is, or if it's occupational training, so the 300 for adult and, oh, what is it for youth? 4
and 5.
What?
400 for in and 500 for
No, but what's the occupation? No, the occupational training. I can't remember off the top of my head the occupational classroom training code number.
It's 304.
414. Thank you. Thank you, Gabby and Christy. So if it's the occupational classroom training ITA, then we also need to know who the provider is, who the training provider is, and we need the provider for any of them. Generally, it's going to be our office, but if it's an ITA training provider, we need to know the training provider and the program name that you're trying to add as the provider. So, and we do occasionally have issues with that, but I think where we have more issues tends to be the relationship number. So one thing, I think we talked about this in a previous webinar, but I don't think we had a slide, so I'm adding this. So relationship numbers. So for adults, you want to pick the relationship number ending in 100. Dislocated, that's the relationship number ending in 300. In-school use is 400. Out-of-school use is 500. And then shared placement, which is for any customer group, is the one ending in 200. This is exactly the same as it was in IWIDS, but I think, I think not everybody knows this. So just select based on that. And then if it's an occupational classroom training service, again, for all customer groups, usually the relationship number is going to begin with a 4,000. I would say 95, if not 100% of the time. So, and usually you're only going to have one relationship number anyway, but everyone, for the training providers that are also WIOA delegate agencies for us, you might have multiple relationship numbers when you're putting in occupational classroom training service. So these are the relationship numbers. And then what happens if no relationship number displays? First of all, check that you selected the correct customer group, so adult, dislocated, youth for the service. If not, then we'll actually need to void the service and you'll need to re-enter it because we can't edit the customer group. The other, and probably the more common issue, is that there may be multiple locations for a training provider, especially training providers, but even an office, and they're only, the relationship number is only attached to one location, and that is because we get the data from IWIDS, and that's how it's set up in IWIDS. So try selecting a different location. I know I've got Ann and Gabby here, and as we update providers, we're going to try to put like a little symbol on the location that has the relationship number, but we haven't. There's a lot of providers, as you might guess, and they've been a little busy with like the new ITA rules, so we will get there. But so just try like each location. And then if you try every location and you still don't get a relationship number, at that point, that's when you send the information to the help desk. And again, pretty much the same relationship or the same information. And then we'll look at and see where the issue is. Sometimes it's not in IWIDS and we have to put it in IWIDS and then have it come over, or sometimes it didn't come over to Career Connect. So there's a variety of issues, and we can troubleshoot those. But please don't just put it in without the provider data, because then we've got services in Career Connect that are not in the IWIDS. Did I put that in here? Ooh, I forgot to do this. On the reports, it's the same document where you can find the open same-day service. That same document, again, on the shared help desk, and we did a webinar on it. There is also a report of how to look up any services that you have in the system that do not have a provider. So we also recommend that you look up that one as well, so you can just do that yourself. And then who can edit what with services? Like, we're still sometimes get confused about it, so the slide's helpful for us too. So projected start and projected end dates, again, those don't really mean a whole lot, but career coaches and anybody above a career coach can edit that. If you're missing a provider, that data on that provider screen, you can go back and add that data. If it's already there, there's a limit. Only the partnership can edit it if it's already there, but you can add it if you didn't put it in the first place. So if you find one of those services with no provider, you can go back in and add it. So adding or closing a service that's more than 90 days old, as I just mentioned, the agency site director or equivalent has the ability to add or close a service that's more than 90 days old. The partnership can edit actual start and actual end dates, and I say in most cases because we got a little bit of a hiccup with same-day services, but go ahead and send us that even if it's a same-day service, and we'll figure out if we can edit it or not. We can edit the office, the grant, the state fund. We can edit the provider location, the relationship number, and the completion code, like successful completion, unsuccessful. We can also reopen a closed service if you accidentally closed it. So we would ask you for any of these things, please send us a help desk ticket and let us make those edits for you versus adding a new service. Because those of you who know, have been through this before, then we got to avoid the service, then we got to send the list to Commerce, and they have to avoid it, delete it in IWIDS, and then you have to re-enter it. So it's much better if it's one of these issues to have us make those edits for you rather than putting in a new service or duplicate. And if you're unsure, I would say send it to us first, because even if we can't edit it, we'll have to add it to the weekly deletes list. So you might as well put the ticket in. If a service needs to be edited after exit, it has to go to Commerce, but again, put a ticket in and we would edit that. Or we would work with them to get that edited if it warranted it. The following fields can't be edited at all, even by us. The customer group, activity code. So if you picked private sector training instead of a private sector OJT, we have to avoid that service. The provider and then the service course or contract, those things cannot, we don't even have the right to edit that in that. So those, in most cases, if there's errors with that, we would void the service and have you re-enter it with the correct information. One thing to keep in mind is if the error was with the very first service, the participation, the only way to fix that is we have to delete every service for that customer. We have to delete the participation record, and we have to delete any lit new tests that have been entered. In some cases, we've been able to kind of get away with a case note about the error and not do this. But like, for example, if you put the first service as adults, but they should have been dislocated worker, the only option we have is to delete everything. So really, really pay attention when you're putting in that very first service that your data is correct, because it's a pain for us, it's a pain for you, it's a pain for commerce, because they have to delete it on the IWID side. Any? I assume everybody can still hear me? Not getting any questions?
I know, like we always say.
We always get questions. We got all our A students on today. That must be it. Okay, so that's all I had on services, and I'm gonna little tip on case notes, because we've had this come up. I know I entered that case note, but it's not showing up, or it's in IWIDS, but not in CareerConnect. Where's my case note? How did that happen? So I think every time that's come up, the issue is that when you've entered the case note, you've entered it as a suppressed case note. And basically what you've managed to do is hide it from yourself, because really anybody in CareerConnect suppressing case notes only hides it across ALWIAs. And since we're the only ALWIA using the system, anybody that has access to view case notes can see suppressed case notes if they know this tip that I'm just going to show you. So our recommendation is don't bother suppressing them, because it just makes it more complicated. But what you can do to find your case note is on the case note screen, there's this, again, it's a little menu with a plus sign that says show filter criteria. And you'll notice right now I only have 2 case note records found on my screen. So I'm going to click on the little plus sign next to that, and then it'll open up my filter criteria. You'll notice it defaults to unsuppressed case notes only. So I need to change it to all case notes, and then click the filter link down here. And voila, there's my case note reminding me not to suppress case notes. And I now have 3 case notes found. So your case note is there. It's just hidden. And let's say you're like, oh, how do I unsuppress this thing now? What you want to do is inside your case note, there's this little checkbox that says, please check to suppress this case note. If you uncheck that box, then you won't have to do that filter anymore. But this is just, again, we haven't had too many of these, but we've definitely had a few help desk tickets on it. And I know we've had some people like who've entered the same case note like 3 or 4 times because they weren't sure. Like they were like, I swear I entered it. So, anything on case note? All right. And I think you may know one of the upcoming topics we have scheduled. I don't remember the date.
Okay. There was one question.
There's a question. All right.
This is from Jose at Cicero. He says, is the suppressed case note activated by someone else? Or who?
No, generally it's whoever put in the case note had to check that box. So whoever put that case note in,
accidentally checked the box.
And you can edit. I think everybody has access to edit any case notes for their office. So even if it wasn't your case note, unless the case note was converted from IWID, you can't edit those, but none of those should have come in as suppressed that I'm aware of.
Jose says sticky fingers.
Sticky finger, yeah. Yeah, and it happens. Or you think maybe it's a really personal case note and you think you're doing the good thing by suppressing it, but it doesn't, in our system, it really doesn't do that much good. So, all right. So I was actually starting to say, and I've got a slide at the end of this about our upcoming webinar dates. So we are going to be doing a more, an overall webinar on case notes and more about how to use case notes more effectively to document your work with the customer, less about the technical issues of how to put them in Career Connect, because it's a pretty easy screen. But again, I thought this was a pro. So you might hear this again in that webinar, but that'll be a much broader webinar. And I bring that up because we don't have it scheduled yet, but we will also be doing a webinar about quarterly follow-ups. There's a couple of, we have a little bug that I'm hoping, it's the bug that doesn't go away. We've had a bug that I'm hoping will be fixed in a couple of weeks, and then we're gonna have some cleanup to do. So we'll be doing a webinar specifically on quarterly follow-ups. But for this, I just wanted to make sure that people know this. And again, this is very confusing. So I know why we've had issues with this. But when you're entering the quarterly follow-ups, there's this, and I can actually, maybe I'll pull one up and so you can just see the whole record in Career Connect. But there's this section called current status at follow-up in the follow-up record, and there's this status at follow-up field. And there's this really misleading note above there that says, this is only required when blah, 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 blah. Ignore that note. In our way of using this screen, and because we have to send the data to IWID, if this follow-up record, if this is skipped, the record will not go to IWID. And I know we have over 400 records that are missing this, that are going to have to be cleaned up. It doesn't make sense to clean them up until we have this other bug fixed, because then you're just going to have to clean stuff up again. So, but we will be sending those out to you. So if you're a career coach, if you're a site director, and you're like, ooh, I'm not sure we've been doing that, you can go back, you should be able to go back into your records and edit this and just add this field and resave it. We are working with Commerce and our developer on a more permanent fix, because this is very confusing. But for now, if this is not completed, it won't go to IWID. So that means we have over 400 follow-up records right now that aren't in IWID. So it's a little bit of a problem. And again, the screen's confusing, so I totally understand why people missed it. And actually, I'm just going to go to Career Connect for this one. And I got Megadeth here. My, giving away my musical taste with my names, but, and Megadeth has been exited. And he's got some follow-ups. Actually, it might be a she, I don't know. Let's go to the second quarter after exit, and it's the same for every quarter. And actually, Commerce is releasing next week, probably, measurable skills gains, and we're doing some testing here at the partnership in Career Connect, so that may be opening up, but actually this field will also play a role in the skills gains later on. So you can see I've got my whole screen here. I got my employment. I got my summary of the other quarters. I have my exit, and then it's kind of all towards the very bottom of the screen is this current status at follow-up section, and it's this status at follow-up on subsidized employment. Or, well, it's not. Usually it's going to look, it'll look like none selected. So if it's none selected, it's essentially considered a blank, and it won't go over to IWID. So you have to pick something. And I know it's redundant if you've already said they're employed, but that's how we set up the screen. And then so you would just, to edit it, you would just fix that, select whatever's appropriate, and resave it. And then it should send over to IWID. Any questions about that?
No.
All right. All right, next time I'm gonna like add polls and other fun stuff, just to keep you all on your toes here. All right. All right. Well, the good thing part about not having a lot of questions is I wasn't sure I'd get to the staff alerts, and I got to the staff alerts. Okay. So Career Connect has a feature called alerts that you can set up, and they really help you manage your caseload. We can't really test these in our test site because the alerts don't alert. So I'm going to kind of go over how to set them up. We think that they are going to work in the real site, but since we don't have customers here at the partnership, we can't actually test it. And then also, I'm not exactly sure what the alerts will look like. I know where to find them, and I'll show you that, but we don't know exactly what they'll look like. So for those of you, I know some of you have been asking about this, have been really interested in it, try it. If it doesn't work at all, if you never get any alerts, let us know. Send a ticket to the help desk. I set up XYZ alert and it doesn't work, or I'm not getting any alerts, and we'll troubleshoot that. But also just let us know like how they work. Do you like them? Maybe send us some screenshots so we can see what they look like. Because truthfully, like we haven't really had a chance to play with these. But anyway, the way to set up your alerts is on the left navigation bar. You can go to My Staff Resources, My Alerts. And the alerts are actually divided into several sections, and there's a whole bunch of them. And each alert has a description on the screen, and I probably will go into the screen in just a minute. We think that the following alerts are going to be helpful. So WIOA activity projected end date. So if you have, like, especially somebody in training, who maybe their end date was projected a year out because it was a long training program, that's the beauty of having the projected end date in there, is you can get an alert, Susie Q is about to finish training. Let me, follow up and see where she's at. I mean, hopefully you've been following up regularly while she's in training, but it reminds you that activity is coming, the projected end date is coming, and maybe time to close the service or check in with your customer. For those of you working with youth, WIOA male participants about to turn 18. Jim Potts would like this alert. Very much. Yes. So this will alert you if any of your participants are about to turn 18, and you can make sure that you get your selective service data updated. Follow-up alert if the follow-ups are coming due for your quarterly follow-ups. And then this one, the individual number of days since last workforce WIOA activity. We are going to have the same problem with this alert as we have with the report, which is it's going to be any WIOA service, so it's not just your active services. But still, since you're supposed to be serving somebody in some way or another every 30 days, this will tell you, hey, I would use days. Oh, 90 days? Okay. Yeah. See, this is why I have other people in the room with me that know the WIOA stuff. Every 90 days, you can have those alerts and see who you need to give a service to, call, see how they're doing. Also, there's a number of IEP alerts around like when expected goals and objectives are coming due and when it's time to follow up on those. So those could be useful to you too. So my advice is set some up, see how you like them, maybe set 1 or 2 up and see, and then you can set more up if you like them and find them useful, and let us know. So just so you can kind of see an example, actually, no, I'm just going to go into Career Connect. I've got those screenshots here for you. I think this one's fun to look at on the screen. Oh, and I might log out and log back in just to show you guys something. Okay, so I'm going to go to my staff resources. And my alerts. And I was playing around hoping I could get some alerts. So when you first go in, if you don't have any alerts set up, this will just be blank, and you'll just have the manage my alert subscription. So, or I think, and then so I'm just going to go in and modify mine. And there's a bunch of individual registration alerts. Since we don't have customers logging in themselves, I wouldn't worry about that. There are, for those of you that might do business services, in addition to Career Coach, there are job order alerts, the training provider alert. You don't have to worry about Wagner Pizer. So here are the WIOA alerts. So I think I mentioned all these. So I've got the projected end date, and this one probably is one of the individual number of days since last Workforce Opportunity Act activity, WIOA activity. So, and here's what you can do. I can say, so I've got how many days since the last activity do I want to get the alert? So anybody that's been 90 days with no service, I want that alert. Then I can pick, do I want to get that once on that 90th day or 91st day of no service, I get an alert for that customer? Or do I want to get it every day until I go in and add the new service? So you can pick however you like to do it.
Look, and just an FYI, I would not recommend setting 90 days because then you've gone 90 days without a service, which is not the policy. The policy is once every 90 days, so I would set it for 60 days as a minimum. That way you have 30 days to provide the service if you're having a hard time reaching the customer, and then you won't have your people going over 120 days without a service and the state needs to exit them.
Yes. Christy's been working on the 120-day exit. We don't like making Christy cranky. Yeah. So, all right. So we've got, so that's, and all the alerts work essentially the same. You set how many days, and then you set whether you want it on the day only or every day after. There's some, again, a lot of these, for those of you that work in generic programs or non-WIOA programs in the system, there's some alerts there that you can play with. IEP, I mentioned, so there's IEP goals, objectives, goal review, objective review. So again, for managing your IEPs, these might be some nice alerts, and I think these can help you too with your services. If somebody's, you know, they should have done their training school exploration by now, so they should have that done in the next 2 days or something. You know, and again, you can pick different timelines. I'll go check in with them, and then it also gives me an opportunity to give them a service related to that, or move to the next step. Again, for those of you that do business services, in addition, there's employer profile alerts. And then at the very bottom, once you've set all the alerts that you want, you can click on Save. And, you know, again, my recommendation, you can't hurt anything. You're just going to get a bunch of alerts or not. You know, so it's not, so any alerts that you are interested in, just go ahead and try it. You know, you can always turn them on and off yourself. And this is one of those bells and whistles that, you know, one of the reasons why we really wanted this system. And then when I'm back on this page, it just shows me all the alerts that I have on for myself. And then the next question is, how do I get to my alerts? Where do I see my alerts? So I'm actually going to go back to my dashboard. Oh, I could have gone right up here. And find my menu there. And of course, I don't have any alerts because I can't get them to work in our staging site. But what you would have is you would have unread messages, and you can just click on the 0. Well, if there's a message, it'll have the actual number. And I didn't go into a lot of detail into the PowerPoint about how to use this. I do have a screenshot though. But basically your message center is a lot like email box. So if you're used to using Outlook or really kind of any email system, you can just see, and you'll just have messages in your inbox and you'll be able to open those messages. And what I don't know is what your alert will look like in the message center. I also don't know if it's like you get one alert for every customer, or if you get like any customer, you get one message for every customer that is 90 days out on that particular day. So those are the things that we couldn't test and play with. So, you know, again, we'd love your feedback or some screenshots from you guys about how it works and what it looks like. But let me just show you. I do in my real Career Connect site, as opposed to our staging test site. The other thing is if I do actually get some alerts related to training provider updates. And so when I first log in, if I have alerts, if I have any messages, I'll have a pop-up that comes up that says you have, you know, in this case, 386 new or unread messages. And I can just click right from there and go right into that. Or again, you can go to your dashboard and just click to the message center. And this is what a screenshot of what it looks like when there's messages in there. And again, I just would click on this to open it and I would see the message. I didn't screenshot one of these because this is like all the training programs that have been updated in like, you know, the last 24 hours or in the overnight update. So it doesn't really correspond to the types of alerts you guys are going to look at, but that's where they show up. And again, pretty easy to retrieve them. And then you can read them, you can delete them, you can sort, you can create folders and you know, you can create folders and sort them into folders. Just again, very similar to email. It's pretty intuitive. If you're good with your email, you won't have any problems with this using this. Any questions on the alerts? Everybody's thinking about their hot Valentine's Day date. All right. I get some questions coming in.
So for now, just try it.
Just try it. Exactly. Go wild, play with it. Again, if you set something up and you're like, I know I should be getting some alerts and I'm not getting anything, definitely let us know, because then we may have to play with some settings. But I think it should work in the real site. It's just, I think for whatever reason, it does not work in our staging site.
Right, and we can't test it because we have no partnership staff, have no customers assigned to them in the real site, so we can't even try it in the real site because we don't have any customers.
Right.
So you all will have to test it for us.
Right. Yep. So, any other questions? All right. So, upcoming webinars and other trainings. So we have, at all of these, you probably found this, you're the A students who found this on the help desk site. We have the upcoming training list on the help desk site, and there's a link right to that page. So we have several job developer training scheduled. There's one next Thursday. There's one on March 8th. There's one on April 12th. I think there's a couple more listed on there, but I figured April was far enough out for the slide. We are doing a case closure exit webinar in 2 weeks. And then we'll be doing the case notes, income calculation webinar on the 7th. So we're basically doing webinars on Wednesday afternoons every 2 weeks. And then the other one that we have scheduled is a case notes webinar. We will be scheduling more for April. We just haven't quite figured out which topics. So please go ahead and register for those. Even if for some reason you're not able to be on the webinar, we recommend that you register because we do get the materials out, but you'll get a direct email once we've got the materials up and the recording posted to everybody that registered. And then I know, Dora, do you have any updates on our career coach trainings?
I need to check with Jan.
Okay, we're trying to get dates for that at the late February, early March, and we will keep updating the document on the Zendesk site with new information as we get things booked. So keep an eye on that. And then we do have on the Zendesk site, if you or you have staff who need youth or adult dislocated case management training, we do have a waiting list registration link, so they should sign up for that.
Well, someone just made a comment that this is the first contact they've had with WIOA. My colleagues and I need a primer from the very beginning. We signed on just to make first contact.
Okay.
So for you, I guess, Robert and your colleagues, make sure you're signing up for the case management training.
Yes.
That is offered. Did we say the date or no?
No, we don't have a date
Okay.
yet. We have the wait list links are in the document though, so definitely put your names on the wait list, and then as soon as those get scheduled, Dora will be reaching out to you. It also helps us know, like, do we need one session? Do we need 2 sessions? Because we usually have like a 15 to 20 person capacity for each 2-day session. So, any other questions? I can check too while you're typing. And actually, why don't I do this? I'll go back to Zendesk.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I was going to give them a link.
Yeah, the link's in the PowerPoint.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And it's actually, the Career Connect upcoming training is also right on the homepage. And it looks like this. Actually, and I apologize, you got to go through a couple to get to the actual schedule. There's a document there. And I don't know how legible it is on the screen, but it's got, so the wait lists are right at the top. And again, there's links to register. You're not registering for class, but you're putting your name on the wait list. The job developer trainings, this one was today, so this one's the one we're doing right now, and it has all of the upcoming webinars and job developer trainings that have been scheduled. And the registration links and a description and the date and time, location, all that good information.
Okay.
Any last questions before we? All right. Well, I thank everybody for being on the webinar today, and I hope it was helpful. If you have coworkers who maybe you want to share this information with, please do. And we'll see you back in 2 weeks for, what was our? Case closure and exit. So that's one we've been asked to do, and we're going to go over the employment bar and the credentials bar, because we all like going to the bar. So definitely join us for that one. And I'm happy to note that I will not be doing all the talking for the upcoming webinars. So you'll be hearing some other voices.
And then
Oh, sorry, one more
Jose
question.
is asking, will the PowerPoint be sent to us? It's on the Zendesk website and also on the handout section of this webinar.
Yep. Yeah. So, and it, again, on Zendesk, oops, what did I just do? On Zendesk, it's right on the home page under promoted articles, right there, Career Connect tips and tricks. And also the services, definitions and rules that I talked about are also on the home page. So you can get those right there. All right. Well, we'll keep the webinar open for just a couple more minutes in case there's any last questions that come in. But again, thanks everybody for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.